It's another tough loss for the Utah Hockey Club. We're going to talk about it, a heartbreaker to the Columbus Blue Jackets. Also going to take a look back at the month of January. Plus, we've got some locker room reaction coming your way here in just a moment. Stay tuned. The Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast starts right now.
You are Locked On Utah Hockey Club, your daily podcast on the Utah Hockey Club, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. Tom Callahan here with you. We appreciate you making us your first listen every single day when it comes to the Utah Hockey Club and being a part of the show. And you know what? Tough one. We're going to talk about it, though. The Columbus Blue Jackets come into town, and third period woes continue. I mean, that's our first bullet point. We're going to get to that. We're going to get some locker room reaction in there and take a look back at the month of January as a whole. And I called January before we started the most important month on the calendar for this Utah Hockey Club. So where are they? Well, we're going to talk about that. Today's show brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Okay, so let's take a look back at this game against the Blue Jackets. 3-2 is your final, and it's a heartbreaker because the game goes to overtime when maybe it shouldn't have gone to overtime in the first place. Utah Hockey Club, a couple of things that this Utah team has not been consistently able to do. Now, we talked about how both these teams are first period teams heading into this game. Nobody scored in the first period. So shots were 13-9 in favor of Utah. So that kind of made it interesting because Utah has had second period woes, but especially lately, the third period has been a repeating pattern for them. And it was again in this game. But Utah starts the second period outright. 41 seconds in, Nick Schmaltz scores on the power play. And you're thinking to yourself, okay, number one, special teams goal. Check. That's great. Want to see that. Love to see that. Number two, the thing that Utah has been not so good at is starting periods. They've given one up a lot of times in the first 2-3 minutes. So for them to get one, massive momentum shift. But after that, when you're hoping, well, let's ride this momentum. Let's keep it going in the second period and try to turn our second period fortunes around. They had chances. They really did. And we're going to hear from head coach Andre Tourigny a little bit later on. And they had some grade A looks. They had some grade B chances. They just weren't able to convert them. So going up 1-0 so early in the second period, I think gave a lot of hope and a lot of enthusiasm and some thoughts of, oh, this could really go the right way. But then they're not able to tack on that second goal, which for a team like the Blue Jackets, who, as a reminder, came into this game in a wild card spot in the Eastern Conference, that allows them to hang around. And resilient does not begin to describe the Blue Jackets this year. With everything they've had to deal with, the passing of Johnny Gaudreau and his brother right before the season started, resilience, this is resilience in a hockey team. You don't lose an incredible player and leader like that on your team right before the year and manage to keep it together mentally, physically. I don't know how they're doing it, but kudos to them. They buried their head in the work. So knowing that when you get up one goal on a team like Columbus, that's not enough because there's no quit in the Blue Jackets. And so you don't score again in the second, you go into the third. Well, guess what Utah does? They score again early to open the period, 29 seconds in. Kerfoot gets a goal. And now you're thinking, okay, maybe this is it. We figured it out. Fast starts to periods, which coaches love. I think that's fantastic. You have now the momentum. You can feel it. Everybody's excited. Delta Center crowd's going nuts. You're in the third period, and now with a 2-goal cushion, you've got to feel pretty good about yourself. Except for whatever reason, they just weren't able to shut the door. And especially like Columbus started to kind of come alive here in the third period. And they had their chances earlier on, don't get me wrong. But, 6:25, Marchenko scores his 21st. And that's probably the most dangerous guy that's out there right now besides Werenski. And we're going to get to him. And then, so now it's 2-1. But you could kind of feel it. Like the Blue Jackets, when they did get zone time, which was still not all the time, they were starting to be more productive with it. They were starting to really make things happen. And then Johnson scores his 15th, and that's at 11:42. Now the game is tied, and now all of a sudden you can feel the stick squeezing. because holy cow, we just let Columbus back into the game. And now you're tied at 2 and you're playing with a supreme pucker factor down the stretch. It does go to OT. And a game that didn't feature a lot of penalties. It was tight. It was close. It was played mostly 5-on-5. Columbus is one of the best 5-on-5 teams in the league. And as a matter of fact, I think they have the most 5-on-5 goals this year. So they don't want a special teams war. They don't want to parade to the box. They're not interested in trying to get their power play out there. They're really good 5-on-5. Utah Hockey Club is not as good 5-on-5. So now you see the game coming down to the wire. It eventually ends up in overtime, but Columbus, you could feel they just had the momentum in that third period, and they knew winning teams have this thing. It's intrinsic, right? It's in their mind. We're going to do this. And in overtime, yeah, both teams had chances, but there was just this weird sinking feeling I had the minute I saw Werenski get that puck. I don't think he left the ice the entire game. I'm going to check his minutes. I'm pretty sure it was 60 because Werenski's a guy who drives this Blue Jackets team. So he ends up scoring 101 into the overtime on a really nice move. And, 101 in, the game's over, and Utah is crushed. Like, that's a crushing defeat. That's a game you cannot let slip away. And it does. It's frustrating. It's troubling. Some good signs in the game. I thought Matias Michelli, after being scratched, came back and played well. That's a response game, but you hate that you have to scratch a guy to get a response game, but with some players it works. Every player is different in the way you motivate them. And Michelli, I thought, responded pretty well to being sat. So that's a good sign for me. Clayton Keller, 2 assists in the game. So you like to see that as well. But I mean, really, Werenski was everywhere for that Blue Jackets team and ends up getting the game winning goal. As a matter of fact, I want to take a look at his ice time, which is just kind of crazy. He is the league leader in ice time for a reason. But Zach Werenski, 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 points, +3. So he was out there for all goals for, and 27:48 of ice. That's insane. That's almost half the game that he was out there. Had 5 shots, and then 2 that were blocked, 2 that were missed, 2 takeaways, 1 block himself. And 22:02 of that's played at even strength. But listen to this. Werenski, 3.5 minutes of shorthanded penalty killing, which is taxing as it is. 3.5 minutes he was out there killing penalties. 2:15 on the power play for Zach Werenski. He just does it all. 28 shifts and all. They lean on him so heavily, and that guy's a horse. So if you were at that game last night and you happen to notice him as a player, I mean, good on you. He is very quietly. No one's going to talk about Zach Werenski for MVP. They're just not. But the NHL MVP, the Hart Trophy, is supposed to go to the player most adjudged to be the most valuable player to their team. It's not most valuable in the league. It's most valuable player to their team. So each team could make an argument that this guy is our most valuable player to our team. If Columbus is still in a playoff spot come April, I don't know how Zach Werenski's not in that conversation. And no one's talking about it right now. I'm talking about it. You're hearing it from me. Werenski should be in that conversation. So over on the Utah side, as I mentioned, Keller 2 assists. He was +1. Barrett Hayton 1 assist, but he was -2. That's a tough night. Josh Doan -2. Believe it or not, Sergachev is one of the few +1s out there. So good for Sergachev. He didn't have the most effective game. Only 1 shot on goal. Had a couple of blocks in 29 of ice time. So not the worst thing. Schmaltz a goal +1, Kerfoot a goal +1. So, it's just a difficult night for the Utah Hockey Club. Marino, 1 assist, -1 in 20 minutes, 47 seconds of ice time. 229 of that was shorthanded. 226 of Sergachev's was shorthanded, but Sergachev got 4.5 minutes of power play time. And again, Utah did get that power play goal, starting things off early in the period. Schmaltz from Hayton and Keller to start the second period. So but again, the chances were there for Utah, and they were unable to stem the tide against Columbus. And I think that, to me, that's one of the most difficult things to swallow about this Utah Hockey Club right now is you feel like somewhere it's there. I feel like it's inside them that they have this capability to make things happen. They just haven't been able to make things happen. And look, I understand it's a little frustrating from a fan standpoint. It's certainly frustrating from a commentator and a media standpoint. I'm sure it's frustrating from a locker room standpoint and a coaching standpoint. We all expect more. We feel like there is more, but it just hasn't been there. So, all right, let's go ahead and take a quick break here. What we're going to do, I'm going to go ahead and talk about January as a whole before we get to the locker room reaction. So I'm going to talk about the January month that was, and then we're going to hear from at least head coach Andre Tourigny, hoping to get a couple of players in there as well. So stick around here. We'll be right back with more. And today's show is brought to you by Game Time. Looking for tickets to your next big event, whether it's a concert, a comedy show, or sports game, finding the right tickets at the right price can be a headache. But with Game Time Picks, it's never been easier. Let me tell you how it works. With Game Time Picks, the app does all the hard work for you. It curates the best deals so you don't have to waste time searching through endless ticket listings. I like Game Time Picks. I also like toggling in the all-in pricing. Right away tells me what I'm paying. I look for the super deal, and it's not just one super deal. It's not like this is the only super deal. There's a bunch of them all around the venue. You can take a look, and you hit that panoramic seat view. You know what you're getting. I mean, it's great to be able to see where you are, what you're doing. So, and the best part is you're covered with Game Time's low price guarantee. If you find a better deal somewhere else, they'll refund 110% of the difference. Plus, your tickets are guaranteed to be delivered on time with easy cancellation options if something comes up, and sometimes it does. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use our code Locked On NHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Okay, so as we work our way here into this second part of the show, if you're watching on YouTube, yeah, I'm going to flip the bullets around a little bit because I do want to get to talking about January here. And I think the way January went is important. I'll just start by saying I was hoping for more, a lot more. I really wanted to see January with a 7-game homestand that I think I can call disappointing, tucked in there. And now February, just to look ahead briefly, Robin and I are going to do a February preview show for one of our next shows here coming up. But there's only 9 games because the Four Nations tournament happens. You go on break. So during that break, there's nothing happening as far as your chance to catch or trail anyone in the standings for that matter. So you're not going to move. 9 games, 5 at home, 4 on the road. I feel like it was a lot of missed opportunity in January. So the total record for the month was 5-6-3. A little bit under 500. 9 of those 14 games are at home. And again, I talk about how disappointing that home stretch was in January. I go back and I look at what January was for this team. Road split the 2nd and the 4th. And again, I'm only talking about January here. I'm not looking back to December. I know they were on that road trip. But so you win in Calgary to start the new year, 5-3. Good win. Team you should beat. Dallas could have won that game, lost it in overtime. So you get a point. Okay, 3 out of 4 to start the month is not too bad, especially on the road. Then you come home and an expected loss to Florida. Stanley Cup champs, they came in. That team is so good. So you lose that one 4-1, but then you beat the Sharks. But now you lose 3 straight winnable games. You lose to the Islanders 2-1. You lose to the Canadiens 5-3, and you should have beat both those teams. The Rangers are a team that on paper should be beating Utah, but Utah had a chance in that game. They couldn't get it done, and they lose 5-3 again. So now all of a sudden you're 1-4 on this homestand. Things look kind of bleak. So now a lot of pressure and a lot of onus goes on to that St. Louis game. They win. And then they win a game I didn't think they should win against Winnipeg 5-2. The Jets looked terrible. Utah Hockey Club looked great. And people have asked, was it Winnipeg playing terrible? Was it Utah playing well? It's both. Not every team's going to have a great showing every night on the road. But I thought Winnipeg was still dangerous. Winnipeg still had chances. Utah was just better. And I love how people discount Utah sometimes to the point of like, wow, like they're playing an East Coast League team. No, they're not. This is an NHL team with NHL players with talent. they can beat you. And it's sour grapes to think anything else. So I hate that, especially some fan bases have that air about them. And let me tell you, from my time in the NHL, I can tell you which ones they are. But the grumbles when they lose to anybody that they think is beneath them, like they're a minor league team. So, but they win that one. So, all right, we redeem the homestand a little bit, but you're still under 500. And what killed me about that was if you'd have won two of those three winnable games, Utah actually would have been in a wild card in the standings at that time. So that hurts. You could have been in there. That would have been an extra 4 points that you could have tagged on. Then you go on the road. You beat the Minnesota Wild 4-0, and I think the Wild are starting to come back down to earth now. I don't think they're going to fall out of the playoffs. I think they're too far in front to fall out, but they're starting to level off and come back towards that third spot, maybe a wild card. The Jets then beat you 5-2 on home ice, return the favor. Okay. I mean, Winnipeg's a top team in the division. They're going to be vying for the President's Trophy, and that's a good Winnipeg Jets team. But then you lose to Ottawa. And that's a game, again, third period. You want to talk about a third period? Could have put Ottawa away in the third period. Didn't. Let Ottawa not only get back in it, but win it. So you lose that one 3-1. So this is your third period woes, right? Pittsburgh, you lose that one at home in overtime. You lose in overtime to Columbus. You're getting a point here, a point there, which is good, but not good enough. And this is the point I want to make about a 5, 6, and 3 month. That's not good enough. And the problem coming out of all that was how much time you wasted at home. 9 home games. That's a potential for 18 points at home. And are you going to get all of them? Well, no, certainly not. But Utah just hasn't been good enough at home. They're not bad on the road. But if you want to make the playoffs, you have to be 500 or better on the road, and you got to win at home. Or vice versa, you got to be at least 500 at home, and I guess just be crazy good on the road, which some teams are this year. It's bizarro world in the NHL how that's working. But I just don't see how the Utah Hockey Club hasn't found a way to make that work for them. So it is frustrating, and I think at the end of the day, I call January disappointment. I really do. That could have been the stretch that put them in the playoffs, really injected them into that discussion where a lot of pundits preseason thought they were. And I was not so quick to jump on that bandwagon because I wanted to see in tough times like this, how do they come through? And if you're coming through sub 500, that's not playoffs. So there's still some learning and some growth to do, and perhaps some roster addition, subtraction that still needs to figure into it. This might not be the group, and it's okay. That's okay. You're trying to figure that out, right? You have in the next couple of years, you're going to have kids pushing from behind to take jobs full time, and not everybody's going to stick around. So you have to figure out what pieces you want to keep, what pieces are underperforming, who can you move, who do you have to keep, who do you have to find a way to motivate. You know, that's what this is about. But what January showed me is this team's not ready for the playoffs. They could go on a run. And, you know, a guy like Clayton Keller is always going to, when you ask, hey, do you guys still think you can make the playoffs? I understand you have to ask the question. But of course they think that. Of course they do. Otherwise, they wouldn't be here. They wouldn't be looking you in the eye going, yeah, no, we're not a playoff team. I'm an NHL player, but we're not making the playoffs. No one's going to say that. They're just not. Not until it is so blatantly obvious that the math tells them, hey, it's impossible now. So they're always going to say there's hope. And right now for Utah Hockey Club, they need more than hope. They need determination. They need effort. They need to just show that every single night they're going to come out guns blazing and take care of business. So they're not quite there yet. They're not quite there yet. That's not the worst thing in the world. It's not. And I know some of you are maybe even surprised that I'm saying that, but this is a team that's been in development. They continue to be in development. And again, I think their window to really get in and be a contender is 3 years from now. This is year 1. So next year, your step is to make the playoffs. And then in year 3, that's when you begin to challenge. But that requires everybody to continue to develop. And there's going to be some tough games along the way is the best way to put it. So, all right, let's get on to the locker room reaction here with the head coach Andre Tourigny. For sure, we're going to hear from him. We'll see if we can get a couple of players in there as well. 3-2 overtime loss to the Columbus Blue Jackets. This is the Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast. All right, everybody, Tom Callahan here with you. Thanks for staying with us. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. You can add this podcast anywhere you get your podcast. We appreciate you listening to us. And if you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, then click the bell. You'll get notified whenever we drop a new show. So looking forward to bringing you more continuing coverage of this Utah Hockey Club team. Okay, we're going to get right into it. We're going to listen to head coach Andre Tourigny and his thoughts following the overtime loss against Columbus.
How would you assess today?
That's a good question. I think we had a lot of opportunity. I think it was 15 grade A chances, 11 B. We had the puck a whole lot. They were really opportunistic in the third period. They, out of 3 scoring chances, they scored twice. So it's the second time in 2 games, a little bit the same story. We play much better in the third. We have 7 scoring chances against 3 in the third, and we lost the period 2-1. That's tough to swallow.
You feeling a little bit snake bit or unlucky right now?
Oh, yeah. To say the least. If I had more vocabulary, I will find something even worse than that. I think listen, if I'm not mistaken, we have, I will say, 12 scoring chances against 4 in the third period in the last 2 games. And we lost 3-1. I don't know what to say.
Is there an issue with any type of focus or mentality? Or
no, not the last 2 games. Before I talk about it this morning, I thought we were a little bit too much on our heels. Like I said, today we have 7 scoring chances in the third period. How many scoring chances you want us to have at some point? We need to finish more. We need to find ways to take quality shots. We need to find ways to get on the rebound and hit nets and stuff like that. But there's stuff we can do better. But I refuse to say we didn't play well. I'm not buying that.
As soon as you get healthier on defense, it seems like offense gets a little bit more injured. Is it going to be harder to manage offensive injuries, or is an injury just an injury?
An injury is an injury, but no, it's not tougher up front. It's tougher in the back end, to be honest. I think Howard, you play good. Like I said, we give up 7 scoring chances today. We had the puck a whole lot. We give up 3 minutes of was on possession for them. Honestly, they didn't have much. So it looks like in the third they had more, but they didn't have a lot. Like I said, it's not like they give it to us. Though there's 2 broken plays and puck goes in, and it's unfortunate. And we need to find solution because we're in the solution mode. But I refuse to blame our guys on those ones.
Kerfoot gets rewarded. Just what did you like about him on that line?
I think he did a great job. He played with pace, energy, and he went at the net, and he was moving his leg and made play with the puck. I think he played good with them.
What did you think about Michelli's return to the lineup?
He was really good. I think he was really good. I think he played with an edge, and he played with assertive, and I liked him.
Do you think that was a response to the healthy scratch?
Whatever it was a great game. That's he can give you the answer on what he feels and what he thinks. But I really like his game.
All right, that's head coach Andre Tourigny. Now, got a little bit of reaction from Clayton Keller. Thought it'd be important to get him on here. So let's get a listen to Keller's thoughts.
What happened in the third, and why do you think it's kind of become a pattern the past week or so?
I don't know. Good question. We get some, different bounces there on, the one, and, kind of let them, back in the game, 60 minutes, they're going to have a push, and, I thought they pushed hard in the third, and, they made it harder on us, but, it's frustrating for sure. I think we've talked about it. We've had, the right mindset, we just got to keep going, learn from it, having, confidence, believing you can make the play in the third, So I think that's next step.
What's the attitude on the bench when that second goal goes in for them and it's now 2-2?
I don't think, we just going right back at him. I think, I forget however many games go, but we had a discussion, just about our third period and, our mindset and how we have to play for a full 60. And I think it has been better, like our, attitude on the bench, just our third period in general. So, I think we're definitely, making strides, and, it's hard to win in this league, and, it's hard to do it every night, and, that's something we're still figuring out.
With Logan out, you expect Alex Kerfoot to, step up, and he did tonight. He got that goal. How big was that for you guys? Yeah,
Kerf's a great player, super easy to play with. He can kind of do it all anywhere in the lineup. So it was good to play with him there and get our confidence going and chemistry.
Is there still a belief in this team that you guys can make the push and try to get in the playoffs?
Yeah, for sure. There's never any doubt in this room. There's a lot of games left in this season. We've gotten hot this year before, and it takes a game or two, and your confidence is at an all-time high, and you keep rolling it over, and you squeeze out some wins that maybe you shouldn't. So we just got to stay confident and keep going. Like I said, there's a lot of games left, and that's when we have to play our best is these last games.
All right, everybody, that's going to wrap it up for the Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast. I'm Tom Callahan. Follow me. I'm most active on Blue Sky these days at Tom Talks. Of course, you can follow the show just about anywhere there is a social media presence. You can find us. And happy to engage your questions, talk about those. I've had a couple slide into me, and I'm happy to talk about them on a future show. I do still check my Twitter at Callahan on air, not as vigorously, but I do still check over there as well. So if you've got a moment and you want to slide a question my way, Robin and I can tackle it in a future episode, and we will do our best to answer it for you. And sometimes the answers are maybe a little convoluted, maybe a little mixed up, and sometimes not all that apparent, but we'll do what we can. Don't forget to vote for your favorite name and logo, and don't forget the next couple of home games are still going to be showing you in secret, double secret handshake probation, no phones, no pictures, but you can get a sneak peek at what the logo might look like with your chosen name. So if that influences your vote at all, and I feel like it might, go ahead and get down to Delta Center and see if you can get a chance to check that out. So, all right, everybody, thanks for checking us out. Appreciate you being here, and we'll talk to you next time on the Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast.